Welcome to Isn't It Obvious, where things are obvious. That's going to be the intro.
That's going to be the intro forever now.
Right.
Hello, and welcome to Isn't It Obvious, a hopeful companion to your drive to work, listening to us talk about things and stuff that hopefully are obvious.
Sometimes.
No one drives to work anymore, Micah.
That's true.
I'm being optimistic.
No one has work. This is just... All right.
What is work?
Isn't it obvious that random civilians should be issued top secret documents to make sure that our government is actually on the straight and narrow?
Oh
Random?
my god. Like a jury pool?
Nope, I hate
Yeah.
it. I don't like it.
10 random people across the country with very little affiliation just receive top secret documents occasionally, and it changes per top secret document.
I don't like it. Nope, bad idea.
I mean, I like the theme of it because it's very similar to our non-professional jury system. In England or whatever, United Kingdom, they have judges. They don't have a jury of your peers. The idea of having a non-professional judge, or at least a branch of it, the jury pool, is that it removes the shenanigans from the government or from the state to kind of pull levers to be like, I don't like this guy, make him disappear. And you just kind of get a judge to do that. In this case, it's like a check. Wait a minute, let's just get like 12 random people here and they get to decide your fate. And apparently it kind of sucks because everyone has to learn how to do the system, but at least it blunts the possibility that the state could be corrupt. Not that it already isn't, but
Phil, how do you appreciate other people telling you how to raise your kids?
I smile and then I just do whatever the hell I'm going to do.
Yeah. So what makes you think the government is going to be like any different when a random citizen gets a random top secret document and then suddenly has an opinion on something they don't really know anything about?
I think that the problem that I have is if there is...
And what's stopping them from sharing it?
Right, like Edward Snowden comes to mind of someone who said, look, I don't like something, I see something, I'm going to say something, and then he flees to Moscow.
He was in the NSA, like he was there. He had actual vested interest, like that was his job. Like that's what he was doing. And then anyway, go ahead, Micah, what's up?
Well, I was just trying to put my cap in the ring here, and I have to quickly remove it back because both what Edward Snowden and what blonde hair rape face guy, the issues that they did is they
For our
just
listeners who
dumped
don't know who that is.
everything. They did not curate it at all. They did not look to see who would have names, who would do anything like that. They just dumped it out for all to see. Where this being sent to random people, you have those names of who received that document. So if somebody steps forward and say, I have proof that Washington, D.C. is ran by lizard people, and here's the NSA document, the governmental records will show that that person did not receive that.
Yeah, but they could have been in contact with the person who did. So
Then the government would know the 10 people and could ask about that. But since no one in Washington, D.C. is a lizard person...
What's the end? What's the point of it?
The point is to have like an audit system where if you're in a medical device company, I can guarantee you that they are afraid of the FDA. They would be. A lot of the decisions that they would make is like if you're making a pharmaceutical drug, they would ask questions like, well, what would a third-party investigator say about this action? In the forefront of their minds, because they know that they can get shut down, or they know that someone is snooping around their crap to be able to say, look, what's your justification for this bad decision on having a bad batch of whatever drug? A civilian board could act like this as an auditor to stem shenanigans, to kind of have a sense of fear for the people that are in military intelligence apparatus. No one holds them accountable at all.
But it's also, this whole topic is predicated on President Trump abusing his ability to label communications as top secret. So we don't know what he discussed with Vladimir Putin on multiple occasions because he deemed those communications top secret.
Rather than have random citizens do like these checks, I would rather there be an independent agency or something that's not necessarily government run, but an ethics board, kind of like how there's an ethics board for medical law and psychology, things like that. Like there should be something like that, and they can make public information that might be unethical to the public, to news. It's not good to have just a random person get a random document that's supposedly top secret. Like it should be peer reviewed by people who know what they're looking for and know what they're doing, have been trained to study ethics.
What is to stop that board or that organization from being applied pressure by undesirable third actors that would be implicated and have detrimental effects happen if those top secret information we put out?
There should be
if
more
you have
than
it
one.
centrally located, you have a point of exploitation.
There should be
if
more
it's
than
random, them, you're scattershotting.
I do agree that there should be probably a mixture of the two, where you would have a civilian board. So you wouldn't be random people. You don't want to get some guy that is super sketchy and getting the stuff.
I certainly don't think I should be in charge of any distribution or judgment of top secret anything.
But I do like the idea that there is a civilian board that randomly selects a pool of candidates, wherever those candidates could be. It could be very loose and transparent. You're not some felon or something like that. You're not on the secret NSA watch list or something.
So similar to jury selection, where they're
similar to jury selection, but this is to review the government affairs. And they could be held accountable if they decide to share this information with another regional power that's not friendly to us. There's still limitations that they have. But the idea, though, is that you give them enough teeth to be able to say something like, you know what, Aaron Aronson really fucked up on this document. And then that person's job is now on the line as an individual because they looked at these documents and realized that there's some shenanigans going on. That could just spark just enough discomfort that officers or policymakers or agents that work for the state actually do their job as intended.
Okay, I don't hate that idea, because if you're getting I don't know, we'll just say 10, 15 people in one room for maybe a week's worth of time to go through and review certain documents for a particular case or a particular operation or something, with photographs documented, this is what happened, blah, 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 and have civilians review it. And they aren't allowed to talk about it or do anything until after a verdict or whatever has been reached and it's been recorded. Then after all of the officialness is done, then they can go and talk about it. And, breaking news, whatever, they can sell that information out to the highest bidder if they want, but it has to be after the case is done.
I think there has to be some hard rules, you can't out people that are informants. So it's got to have some level of interference by the government. So it doesn't quite work, but it's a balanced approach, since these type of cases could be why was there a no bid contract for Boeing on the Air Force One? That's kind of messed up. That's a super expensive project that costs taxpayers $1 billion at least. Why are we paying full price? And then they can go through the bidding process to see, well, you know what, per these procedures, it turns out that no wrong happened, no wrongdoings. And then they could be our procedures suck. And then they can bring that up. I feel like that's fair. But right now, we don't have anything other than whistleblowers who just disappear or get their entire career ruined. We have no other system to check these bureaucrats that are nameless, probably shameless, and are corrupting the system that we depend on.
I have a slight alteration. What if this was civilians get to look at information and documents that are being requested for top secret, as opposed to top secret information that already exists? So to go with civilian board, that is an NGO that randomly will give these informations with names redacted or names changed to protect whomever's being involved, but everything else is unredacted. So what happened is known by this small group of civilians, but they don't know who it necessarily applies to, because any proper noun would be redacted when it's being issued to civilians. Something fishy happened at a town in redacted country where service members left 15 people dead. Is that something that should be top secret because it's USA covering up a war crime? Or should that not be able to receive top secret information?
Well, that's why you'd have to get a group of people in a jury to kind of look at the context of whatever, information they're given and make it kind of
it can be a horrible Zoom meeting too.
Yeah, well, now it would have to be a Zoom meeting.
I'm fine with Zoom meetings.
Yeah, because then you don't have to, I'll be honest, I hope I never have to get called in for jury selection, because I don't want to go through the hassle of finding a parking spot in, downtown. I don't want to go through I'm sure there's vouchers or whatever you can get for, paying for parking, but I don't want to even deal with it.
Well, and you get, $100 a day per diem.
No, it's much less. Depending on the case, I believe it's enough for half a Subway sandwich.
I thought food was covered. But you're compensated for your time if you're missing work.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
And I think that's $100 a day.
Yeah, you're right. I feel the problem with this, though, is the teeth part of it, where, so you get 15 civilians to review whether this should have been top secret, just so that...
13, let's be symbolic.
Okay.
Why 13?
13 original colonies.
That's stupid. There's 53. We're beyond the colonies now. What?
It's symbolic. We're going back to what was supposed to make America a better country than England.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
And that's meant to be accountability by the people in power.
13 is a great number. I just am so... Why not 12? Why not 11?
Because you could have ties in 12 and nobody respects 11.
Fair. We do need it to be an odd number. I like 15, though.
15's good.
F the original colonies.
Wait, what? Okay, so my thought here is that what would happen if the pool of the civilians said, yeah, this is messed up? Is anything going to happen at all?
Then that information is not deemed top secret and it's released for anyone to investigate from a FOIA.
Okay, so would they have to make like two decisions then? Like whether or not this should be released to the public and whether or not this should be punishable offense?
If it's not deemed top secret, then it can be publicly searched. And then people, journalists, or other...
can make their judgments?
Lawmakers can use it as evidence and bring it up and not have to go through top secret request form where they can look at it but not disclose any of the information.
I'm going to go straight to Godwin's law. What would you do if it was a Manhattan Project and the jury civilian board said it should not be top secret? Then they would open that up. That's a huge liability for the war effort at that time. This is kind of a strange a paradox where for most secrets, we want to see what's really happening. But on some secrets, we don't want to give that decision to 15 randos.
Well, then the government needs to make a very compelling argument why it should be top secret.
What if it was just during wartime, this ethics committee is...
Quick question.
Yeah.
When has America not been at war?
I know, right?
Like 1994, maybe?
I don't know, though, because you don't want the enemy to know what you're up, what you're up to if you're at war and there's a real danger to the safety of your civilian population.
So, like a jury, to make sure that it can't be deemed top secret, it has to be a unanimous choice with all of those.
Or what if there is a time limit the jury can set? We recognize that this should not remain top secret, but it should for the duration of whatever arbitrary time they put in place. Maybe for a year, and then it will be reviewed again.
Okay, but what about the problem is that the average person is pretty stupid?
That's why you have 15 and hope that...
Well, you roll the dice and you're going to get 15 stupid people.
Oh, shit.
It's America. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so every once in a while you get 15 stupid people in a room. Let's be honest.
And the worst happens.
I'm going to be in that room too. And we're all going to decide, yeah, that's not top secret. Science belongs to everybody. If the government can say something like, yeah, these guys are obviously making the bad call, and they make it top secret anyway, then what's the point of that civilian board if the government can just overturn it? On the other hand...
the illusion of participation on behalf of the citizenry?
Yeah, but those citizens then have that information and can still, in theory...
leak it to the public. WikiLeaks.
Plausible deniability of 15 people out of a
but
potential pool
we
of
know
200
that this
million?
is a practice that the citizens are in, and they have other witnesses that know, like their family members or their coworkers know that they have been to through this process recently.
If you're going through jury duty, you have a legal obligation not to discuss what is happening in that trial.
Yeah, until the trial is over.
Sure.
And with the problem with the jury duty example is that, yeah, you could spill the beans and you can get into legal trouble, but
people still know you're doing jury duty. They know you're there.
Yeah.
So if after the case is decided and you go home and the government says, yeah, well, sorry, 15 people, we just, we're going to totally ignore what you decided and we're going to keep this a secret. Good luck. They'll have to silence those 15 people.
And then also, what was the whole point of this? If the government can just override the people so easily, then they're just going to do that every time. And then on top of that, now you just leaked out 15 people that could know some intricate details that you really don't want the enemy to know. And then the flip side of this argument is, why do we always have an enemy that can't know something? The government's always super secret because, like,
why do we have to? If we were just honest and transparent with the rest of the world, you'd think that, they would do the same for us and we could just all work together in harmony and happy rainbows and fucking ponies and
maybe
bunnies,
that could happen.
Puppies and
if
kitties.
we tried it.
I had a shouting argument against my teacher back in high school about this because he's like one of those super liberal teachers, and he mentioned something like,
Howdy.
hey, if Star Wars would have worked and you could shoot down missiles from any distance and the US had it, the US should give it to all of their allies and should open source it so everyone has this. And then I said,
nope.
But sir, clearly you can imagine how this would be a bad idea. They could reverse engineer this and they could find a flaw with this missile detection system. And then he looked at me and said, well, I said perfect. And then so therefore it would be universally good. And so your argument is flawed because you said you think that it's not. And obviously I wouldn't agree to something that wouldn't be perfect, but it would be perfect. And I was like, no, but even define perfect. Every system has a flaw. Every type of design is compromised. There's going to be blind spots or poor areas of resolution and one type. I was just very surprised that there's no sense of...
You can't, there's no imagination to assume that there are smarter people out there than the developers who might find the cheat code.
As a liberal who knows that nobody in the world is smarter than I am, I resent it.
As a realist, I was like, this is why I fucking hate liberals. Not like...
As a realist, this is why I fucking hate humanity.
There was another
Every day,
comment
man.
that I was like, oh God, you make us all look very bad, right? Like just the concept of the hubris of like, oh, well, the technology like this would be so perfect that of course there would never be any flaws.
That's what the Russians thought with Chernobyl.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Grand Moff with the Death Star. Okay, so to your point,
Damn it, that was a better
I'm not sure if this would ever fly, because if the government can just silence them, then they just would. So there's no point of having this, other than the illusion of control. And then logistically speaking, there's probably going to be tons and tons of top secret documents. And the argument that the government makes then, and really makes right now, is, oh, this is for national security. You know, you betcha. Like, we can't share this information because the enemy would know, and then therefore you would be less secure. And you like security, don't you? So why don't you go ahead and take off your shoes while you go through the airport? I don't know of another argument that you can compellingly make that says that you can override the security of the national public and still get the public to agree with you.
Yeah, that's why I think there still needs to be like an ethics board or something that's in charge of reviewing every single piece of information that goes through our government agencies. Like every single thing needs to be double checked by a few independent agencies that are, you know, they're still bound by non-disclosure or whatever. They're not necessarily, but they would be the ones in charge of deciding a jury selection scenario where they would be like, okay, we think that this is appropriate for citizen review. That I think would be a better option than just giving it to just any random person.
But I still feel that board itself, being a group of static members, can have screws applied to them, or they can turn that for their own benefit. Go back to the government and be like, hey, you offer a no bid to my cousin who runs a small airplane factory or something like that, and then I'll make sure that all of these things stay quiet. If you have it where it's a certain board with certain members that are going to be the arbiters of whether or not any bid is actually reviewed.
You can do that with any group of people.
If it's static, but the fact that you have random people looking at it means that
it's not
pool is hard and you can't
static
apply that
because,
pressure.
No, it's not necessarily static because this would be any job. People would be in and out, be fired or hired, or it would be a job. Like you'd have to have
Based
special
on whose
training.
prerogative then?
What?
Based on whose prerogative for that hiring and firing?
It'd be like any corporation, like any business.
Corporations are the best.
It's very similar to what the FCC is like, where the members move in and out, but the organization is fairly static. There's not a lot of oversight. If you have the wrong actors in there, then they can be easily, I guess you could say, lobbied by AT&T, Verizon, and
bribed,
Sprint, right?
Like a Jeet Pie.
Fuck that guy. Anyway, so that is a big problem because, like, yeah, he's gonna leave, and someone else will come in, and you know the person that that guy replaced wasn't very good either. Anytime you have like a monolithic type of organization, even if it's like an ethics committee, and then you just put all your hopes and dreams on that, I almost feel like that's going to be corrupted even faster.
Fair. That's why there would have to be multiple ones. But no, you're right, because there's even corruption in any ethics committee, like any ethics organization. It just is. There will be. People can be bribed. That's just going to happen. I don't know if there's really a good solution here.
But I trust in the RNG, because the RNG makes it more difficult to game the system. And if you're dealing from a pool of 200 million potential adult Americans that will be looking at it, and you're only taking 15, that's a minuscule amount. That'll be very difficult to find.
I just don't trust our average citizen to
Neither
know
do
what
I,
they're doing.
but if we're gonna still claim to be a country of the people, by the people, for the people need to be involved in these types of situations. And we won't have our best looking at it. We went through 4 years of the worst people possibly leading this country.
Well, to be fair, it
could always be worse, Micah.
It felt like a decade, so it didn't really feel like
it did. It felt like 1,000 years.
1 year. 1 year felt like a decade.
I feel like I've lived 1,000 years in the last 4. Oh, I feel so old now. I'm tired. I'm so tired, you guys.
I do feel more cynical than ever. Like my tech tree for cynicism just like accelerated. It's as if I took like a crash course in just being an asshole, and like I graduated with flying colors. Because prior to this, I would have been like, yeah, I like the idea of an ethics board, like, and I like the idea that there's a random pool of people, and you know this should work. But now it's just, oh well, it's going to be corrupted, or oh well, like something is going to fuck this up.
Can we just like put a little faith in people? Not everyone is corruptible. I shouldn't say like, I know there's like this thing like everyone has their price, but I feel like there are people that do exist, I hope, that are not going to be swayed by money or other people's persuasions. They're just going to be like, no, I like my job. I like what I do. I have faith in it. I'm going to do the best I can. I think it's important. I'm going to, put my best effort towards a good faith effort towards the purpose of my office. I feel like there are people like that.
Your optimism rank went up 1 and your cynicism rank went down 1. So
listen.
One person liked it and one person did not like it. No, I feel like there's this is now me being a recovering Catholic. I think it's true that most people, if they're in a good spot, would say, you know what, go fuck yourself, I'm doing the right thing. That's what I was brainwashed with growing up as a kid. When push comes to shove, if they're in a good, favorable position, they could see like, you know what, screw you. You either do the thing that's right or I quit this job. And then they just walk away. I feel like that's becoming less and less of an option, even for these so-called good people, because we're living in poverty wages, or we're one paycheck away, or we don't have any safety nets that are worth a damn. It's like as if the system, again, I'm not trying to be too cynical here, but it's as if the system is trying to make us live on the razor's edge so that these courageous people are not going to be courageous. They're going to be meek and they're going to be easily manipulated because they're worried that if they stand up against the system as it is, that they're not going to be able to get food or medicine for their kids.
Yeah, this isn't just a flesh wound. This is like an amputation.
But if they actually had these robust safety nets, or if they were getting paid more than just starvation wages, and they had enough runway to be able to
afford to be good.
To afford to be good. And people are like, well, you should be good all the time. It's like, well, yeah, that's easy to say when you don't have a lot to lose. But if you actually are responsible for the well-being of others, or you just like to live, maybe don't be such an asshole and say like, oh, you should always do the good thing even if you're gonna just be homeless on the streets. Like, that's kind of a bullshit answer. So I think the problem is that I don't know what the percentage of people are actually these good people, because I think
not enough. Clearly,
the vast majority of these potential good people are under the burden of debt, are under the burden of having to work this terrible system because they don't want to starve. Maybe we can have better people in our society that actually will stand up and live to their principles as they seem fit, but I haven't seen them yet. They're very far and few between.
It's sad that most of the people who are capable of that good are living in poverty, and the people who can afford to be good are generally not.
Right. Yeah, right. I think there are a lot that I see that are in my sphere of what I can tell their behaviors are, either by knowing them or working with them. They're well off enough to say fuck you.
Yeah.
And those are the people that people like because they're principled enough to say that. But then I notice that they're pretty well off. And so they think themselves as good people, but I'm like, you're only as good as what you can afford to be.
Yeah.
This idea that we'll have whistleblowers to be able to check and balance corruption of top secret behavior. It's like, yeah, fuck that. I mean, if I was in that position, I would be really hard pressed to be able to be like, oh, I'm going to abandon my family and have no safety nets and no job prospects and be blacklisted and just be, I don't know.
Have to go into hiding in another country because of my moral principles.
Right. It's very hard for me to believe
Sorry,
that.
Friends, family, and children.
I think a better system, which is what liberals like me would argue for, is if you want people to speak up against bullshit, then you have to give them enough, I guess, shovel power to shovel through it. Like, you have to give them enough safety net or security or something so that they can handle a couple shots before they're taken down. Right now, it's like a stiff wind would just put them to the ground. So that's my solution to corruption.
That's not a solution. That was just an observation. Nice try, though.
This is a solution. The ability for every American to have the confidence in their government to be able to have access to affordable health insurance.
I don't think that's the solution, but it
is. Thank you. That will be it for Isn't It Obvious this week.
But it certainly would go a long way towards building a more confident citizenship.
People that are good. Yeah. people that will do good things.
People who can afford to be good.
Yes. I also want to thank
But like 1980s good. Just all you need is a revolver and your good is done. You are automatically the hero.
Bruce Willis just comes to my mind.
Big sticks.
Not a Christmas movie. I swear to God, it's not a goddamn Christmas movie.
Also, I just want to thank my mom.
Your eye out. Sorry.
Thank my mom because she worked a great union job for the federal government and got me great benefits growing up as a kid. So that was wonderful. So yeah, thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
My parents did not work government jobs, but they still had pretty good benefits. So thanks, Mom. Lucky bastards.